Real quick.
Okay.
Is this going to work?
It is. I had to reformat the card.
Pulled the files
really
off.
weird.
So are we
reformat.
starting over?
No,
No,
we
they're
pulled
here.
the files off.
Oh,
So we have everything up until whenever I said.
Something spaghetti.
Expectations.
Okay, well, I have football
Expectations.
practice, and you have anniversary, and you guys are
and I have a volleyball
lives.
game. So are we? What do we want to do? We want to just pick up right here and just answer the question. Say we had technical difficulties and.
Well, right now we are recording, so we've already picked up.
Okay. All right.
So
next question.
move to the
Here we
next
go.
question.
Well, we didn't.
Did we
even-
answer that one?
Let's go back. Okay, so obviously, if you're listening or watching,
You're like-
Matt screwed up again.
Oh,
and
Matt.
the show was technical difficulties. We had to stop. We didn't get to answer all of Phil Dickey's question.
Right.
But you were just getting to where it was cut off. Go to your plate of spaghetti.
Oh, why?
And by the way, let's pause and say thank you, Katie, for noticing that
did
the
my
light
job.
was off.
you did your
It
job.
was relatively
Well done.
fast. That was-
Yes.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
I feel like I
Awesome.
was on it.
Here's the
I
deal.
wish you
We have a
would
quality
send me a
show
shot.
when it comes to people.
Yeah.
We don't really have a quality show when it comes to
Equipment.
equipment or
Or
technology.
locations. I mean,
Location, does it get
Prime.
better than this?
Prime.
well,
We're
it
in a
might,
garage.
the card might be jacked up just because temperatures now.
The
That I think about
humidity
it.
is rough out here. That's fair.
Well, you don't have to leave it out here. When you leave, you could take it with you. You could put it in the house.
Well, we do. We put it inside the box.
Here's what I think.
Okay.
Go. Answer
Go.
the question.
Spaghetti.
Oh, so my point with this was that obviously there's a history, and the history's fine, but the history, your expectations and your past hurts and resentments is not going to. It's not going to help as you move forward. Obviously, there's a pattern there. There is a way that she feels she's entitled to stuff, and you've been bummed on stuff. So the only way to deal with it, I think, is to go situation by situation. So you deal with the next time she makes a decision that you don't like the decision, and you deal with just that. Don't bring up the past and all that stuff. And then what I said was, that mess is a giant plate of spaghetti. You can only deal with one noodle at a time. There you go.
It's really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I always like
Anything you
food
wanna add to
analogies.
that?
Appreciate it.
Just that I think you need to have, if you haven't already had an initial kind of conversation to open, you kind of got to step up a little bit to kind of show her that you're in it and you're a leader, and that if when the next situation arises or whatever, I mean, I think there needs to be some kind of initial conversation, like, hey, we've struggled. Do you see this? Like,
Right, do you feel this
I think you
tension
should
too?
call Katie too. Katie's a great leader with conflict.
It's true.
You are a great leader. I heard a story
I can
that I'm
vouch
not
for
going
that.
to go on and say this, but I heard it Saturday night. I had a bunch of my small group guys over at my house. We were watching UFC.
Trying to figure out what the mission strip was going to be.
Jason Pogue comes over. We're talking. Everybody leaves. It's after midnight. I got to wake up early and go baptize an aunt in Temecula. But I was loving my little time with Jason, and he was telling me a story about you, and I went, "Oh, Katie's
Yeah.
good. She's
Yeah.
a good leader."
Yeah.
You got to talk. Phil Dickey, you got to talk to her. You got to sit her down. You can't big picture, and a lot of people do this with conflict. They think it's going to go away.
totally.
They think it's going to go. If I don't address it, it's going to go away. And all of us have to make very difficult decisions as leaders. Josh has had a couple in the last month, 2 or 3, 4 that you've had to make that were difficult conflict situations. They're not going to go away. But the good thing about you, Phil Dickey, is you're going to get something from Youth Ministry 360, some of their
Winner.
great curriculum, and dnownline.com.
I love
That's a
it.
good gift.
It is a good gift. Let's go to Joe Thompson in Winterville, North Carolina.
Keep looking at the red light. Now I'm panicking a little. Thanks, Matt.
Joe says this, "Hey, I'm enjoying the new podcast. What's up with Josh missing his camera salute in episode 166?
What?
Oh,
What's a salute?
he does that at the start of every show.
Well, I got a little self-conscious
Salute.
about it because there was some
Salute.
conflict on the team that you guys thought I was showboat in front of the camera. So
Who's we?
you and me. You made fun of my little.
I mean, I didn't think you were showboating.
Well, maybe I was in my heart.
Well, that's
this
called
out.
the Holy Spirit.
I've already checked
Well, it's
out
back.
the show. What's happening next
It's
time?
back.
Come on.
Are you thinking about how you ruined it with your technical difficulties?
No.
Yeah, remember when we all checked out while we were fixing this and you were,
All right.
Oh, gosh.
Here's my
Hard
question.
being on top.
When a student moves from middle school ministry to high school ministry. And Joe, what a great thing to ask, because you've got the queen of middle school right here, and then you've got the kings of high school ministry right there.
Oh, the kings.
And
The
you
kings.
have just a volunteer.
Yeah.
Right
So really,
here.
you're going to get all the perspectives.
perspectives.
Here.
You got wisdom, opinion, knowledge, time,
And the rest of us.
and us.
And filler.
Okay, when it comes to middle school ministry to high school ministry, how easy is it for them to move a middle school group to a high school small group? So a middle school small group to a high school small group.
That's great.
They've developed relationships with leaders for a few years, and now it seems like almost uprooting them to have them move into a new group with new leaders.
Agreed.
Would the idea of having leaders move with the students be quote unquote better than having students change groups? Ready to go.
Love it. Why don't you start?
Well, I definitely think it helps that our small group programs align a little bit, and
Yeah.
we communicate a lot about how small groups look. So I think middle schoolers it's not a shock to move to high school in our church, because the structure kind of looks the same and some of that kind of stuff looks the same. I like when leaders move over to high school
me
with
too.
their students. However, there are some leaders that are just great middle school leaders, and they might want to cycle back around. For me, I'm okay with either.
Yeah.
I love it if they look at it as a 6-year process, and when they take them all the way to senior year, I think it can be really awesome.
Yeah.
So, I
Or
don't...
7-year process if they're sixth
7 year,
graders.
yeah, for 6 years. I mean, we just had a leader, Paul Cops.
Yeah.
One of our leaders
for the cycle.
who, he just did 6 years, and he just cycled back around to 7th grade.
It's
And
unbelievable. Such a stud,
Great.
too.
such a stud, and it was great.
Yeah.
I think it works out.
Well, and I would say that's ideal. That's the dream, that they start in 7th, 6th, 7th grade and make it all the way through. But I don't panic if they don't. Because honestly, the majority
through
don't
with the same leader.
Make it through. The majority don't make it through with the same leader for 6, 7 years. And I also think there's some health in, the familiarity is good too in some cases, but it can also be, a fresh eyes, new voice, say the same things, and it hits differently. So I don't panic at all if we have a transition where a great leader goes back to junior high or even is done for a season. That's okay. Because I think they both are wins for us.
I think a lot of times too, they get through middle school and they're like, okay, I'm done.
Right.
I just did 3 years with them. High school, good
I'm out,
luck.
right.
So I think that happens too. But I think it is nice when it does work.
Yeah, and I would say we encourage it. We keep as many groups intact. Even if a leader would go back down to 6th, 7th grade, we would try to keep the group intact, but bring in a new leader. And sometimes it's interesting, parents will request a new group in their freshman year, and they kind of want to do over, fresh start, something.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really open to whatever happens as they come in as freshmen, ideally all the way through.
Yeah, but as a high school small group leader, if they've had a good junior high small group, you're getting compared all the time. That
That's
first
true.
year,
It's hard, yeah.
that first year was like, my guys had a great junior high experience, and it was like I could do no right. It was
Right,
like,
right,
well,
impossible.
we used to eat dinner together with Taffy when he had the small group. We used to do this. We used to do that. And I'm like, well, that's what junior hires do. You're not in junior high anymore.
Exactly.
High schoolers.
We're going to
step it up
study
a
the
little.
Bible, and we're going to be accountable. And yeah. No, that's unavoidable. There's going to be comparisons between.
And it happens
leaders.
both ways though, because sometimes they will say like, "Oh, my junior high group was rough. I'm so glad." So I
Right.
think we see
So
both
what's the
sides of that.
takeaway? The takeaway is both work.
Yeah.
Do what's
No carbon
comfortable.
copy answer.
Talk to the leader.
Yeah.
If the leader wants to move up with them, great, but doesn't have to be a requirement.
Exactly, and if you have an all-star leader, you just want them in the system
In the
somewhere.
system somewhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't necessarily matter if they've journeyed all the way through, as long as they're with us.
Yeah. Hey, Joe Thompson, good question. Here's the
Yeah.
deal. Our podcast is powered by U Specialties. They're our primary.
They have the
Sponsor,
biggest.
powered by.
They've done everything for us. They've bought us the equipment.
They bought us these
They've done
memory
a lot of
cards.
stuff.
See how good that's gone.
Yeah, well, I think it's user error. But YS is going to send you
You
some
need to choose
small
me or a
group.
sponsor. You're going to choose a sponsor every time.
Absolutely. So they're going to send you some of the brand new small group material that U Specialties
Oh, that's
has.
awesome. They've got some new material.
Awesome.
That's great. I love
Always new material. Hey, here's a volunteer question. This is from Jeff Boozy, which we can't send Jeff anything because he doesn't leave
Sorry,
his
Jeff. Chris. Sorry, dude.
So
That's really a pseudonym.
I have a high school volunteer that has amazing potential. She's a teacher in the high school we pull most of the students from, but she's made her life very busy. She's a single mom and has 50-50 custody with the father. She's a full-time teacher. She teaches exercise classes at a YMCA 2 times a week, to the point that it seems high school ministry is at the bottom of her priority list. She will be there for a couple weeks out of 2 or 3 weeks. How long do I try to make the ministry work for her before I just say, I think you're too busy right now?
That's a good question. Sounds like her priorities are all right. I think exercise is at the bottom of my priority list, so good for her. That's good.
I find a way to figure out my aerobics classes in.
Yeah.
And do high school ministry
and
seven
Get some hot
days a week.
yoga in.
If I can do it, I don't know why other people can't do it.
Yeah, but volunteer is too busy. How long before you say something and or adjust her role?
Have you created, I mean, the first thing is have you communicated a clear expectation of what it means to be a leader in your ministry? I think last year I jumped into a ministry for the first time, and we did not have clear expectations on our leaders, and we had a lot of flakiness and a lot of great leader stuff happening. So if you have identified what your expectation is and you've communicated it, then that's great. Then it's really a matter of following up on what you've communicated, that you don't. I mean, obviously grace is really important, and you can't just have a rule and follow it no matter what. I mean, you could do that, but that's just would be your own crappy ministry. But at the same time, if you've already identified what it is it means to be a leader, then you should follow up with that and say, hey, look, what's going on here? What's best for you? Even if she's a great leader, then that's cool. But obviously, the picture of her life being healthy is more important than her contributing to your ministry. And so, when she hears that from you, the answer is going to be real obvious, I think. I mean, and I don't know what it is.
The hard part for me is if she's a great leader, I take what I can get. If she's there every once in a while, great.
Co-leader.
Well, I know when you write questions, it's not we're getting pieces of it here, but she says it seems like high school ministry is at the bottom of her priority list. I think what I'd do is I'd try to move out of that category of it seems like to what is actual.
Is it
for her?
So. Yeah, to ask her,
investigate where
to ask her
she's
the
at.
question and say,
you want to go over this thing or what?
Just like that.
yeah, but she now to her defense, she might be saying, based on what's been communicated to me, I think I'm doing fine in high school
Right.
ministry.
Yeah,
That's why I have time to teach exercises classes and do. But single mom, 50-50 custody, teacher, but she's great.
Remember that summer that there was a girl, a high school senior, that wanted to teach an aerobics class, and you made the whole high school team go just to support a student wanting to do ministry?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great. It was like, the high school staff, as interns, I'm an intern, and like a few students showed up, and it was great. It was great.
And there's a story behind that story. It wasn't
Awesome.
just I like this girl to do aerobics. It was this girl had been mistreated in our ministry.
Yeah.
And
She was expressing. It was awesome. Honestly,
you were saving her.
It was funny.
Sure.
It was funny. But afterwards, we got the smoothie shake juice deal every time and hung out with us and 5 students. It was great. Yeah, it was good. I hated the aerobics part.
Yeah, the smoothies sound delicious. I kind of wish we had that ministry still. Kind of dropped the ball, but
hey,
seriously,
start it up.
Yeah,
Start it up.
great.
well, I have a lot of weaknesses in my ministry. Just ask Doug. So
The first one I've ever mentioned. And if you need help making
We've talked
announcements,
about unclear communication to the volunteers. Just saying.
I have.
Yes.
next question. Too close to home. I'm sensitive this
Are
week.
you
I'm
really
telling you
sensitive
what.
this week? I thought you were sensitive last week.
Josh,
It's been a long couple weeks.
I sat next to Josh on Saturday night, and it was Josh and me and Kathy at the Saturday night service. And I said to Kathy, Josh is he's just a good leader. But I say this on the
follow up with the
podcast all the
fake.
time.
you're
No,
gonna-
didn't we have a
thank
good
you.
weekend? We had a
It
good
was an
weekend.
Unbelievable weekend.
Yeah.
I'd say it was one of your best talks. It was fun.
I don't know about that, but it was
it was
very
good.
fun. We had kids coming. It was a sex talk.
Yeah.
We had kids sitting in the aisle. There wasn't even enough seats. They're sitting
was
in
cool.
the
Sitting
aisle
on the
all
floor.
over the place.
It
I
was
was
neat.
telling Kathy, a couple of the girls that I know from high school volleyball were sitting there just like they were sitting listening like
Yeah.
I mean, so intrigued.
Well, I love stealing a glance at students when they don't know you're watching because they're just focused on the speaker or you in
Yeah.
this case, and you can just like I know the punchline that's coming, or I know that, and they're just like gasping at
Yeah.
the right parts, or shocked, or looking at their friends and like oh
Yeah.
or by the end genuinely tender and even a little broken, or that's awesome.
It was a good weekend. It
was fun.
To David Peck,
Yeah.
who works at APU.
He was there.
He
Yeah,
was
what
there.
did he
So
think?
yesterday when I was at Azusa, the president of the college, John Wallace, was there, and kind of the number 2 guy, Dave Bixby, was there, and they come up to me and go, "I heard you were at the Saddleback's high school ministry, and da-da-da. We saw photos of it."
No way.
David Peck took pictures of the crowd.
The phones could do that these days.
I know. That's why I recognized that. And then he had a shot of me speaking because I had my APU shirt on,
yeah.
and it was the crowd in the shot. APU
was-
people love that.
Yeah, so cross promotional.
Did they
Our
know-
sponsor APU, who happens to send me shirts.
I need a 2XL something.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
their
going-
problem. They say they don't have.
It's
they don't make them that big.
discriminatory. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
That's one thing it is.
All right.
You're a grown-up.
I'm sure Matt will not have an opinion on this one at all. This guy says, "Do not use
That's
my
what
name."
that person said?
No. He says, "Don't use my name" in all caps.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
boy.
like the
Okay.
shortest email I've ever seen.
I know.
Love
All right, what should
short
we
and
call?
pithy.
What should we call him or her?
Let's call him Randy.
Wong. Randy Wong. Okay, here we go.
And Randy, because he does have his address, he will get something from Remedy Live.
All right.
Remedy Live.
Nice.
Remedy Live. They're not sending books, but they're sending jump drives, like
I like
5
that.
gig jump drives. It's
I
pretty-
want one. How do we get in on that?
I don't think they call them jump drives anymore.
What do they call them?
I don't know.
Flash
Thumb
drives?
Flash drives?
Thumb drive.
Yeah.
I like to call them portable media drive. Whatever.
USB sticks.
PMD?
Oh, you need a PMD?
There you go.
All right. What is Randy Wong's question? Here we go.
Okay, Randy says, how important is it to have a
Very.
lead pastor?
Just kidding.
How important is it to have a lead pastor who is strong in decision making? Should I be overly concerned if he is not? Little backstory, I'm sure there.
Yeah. No, short email, big question. All right.
I'll answer. I think it's important to have somebody that oversees your ministry be a decision maker. So our friend Tick Long, who used to head up youth specialties, is going into the church to be an executive pastor. And I told him, I said, working in the church 30 years, working with executive pastors, Tick, just make decisions. Even if
good.
the answer is no, then at least how to navigate around the decision.
Right.
So but we don't control the checkbooks in youth ministry. We can't make all the decisions related to the church. So when we want to make a decision to move our ministry forward, we need to ask.
Right.
And if you have somebody over you who is not saying, well, and let me, okay, kind of playing that game or a little bit, or putting you off for a week or two, just give me a decision. Because even if it's a decision that goes against what my desire is,
Totally. It's clear.
So then he should be very concerned. That's what you're saying.
if it may not need to be the senior pastor. So
A supervisor or someone above you.
I mean, there's not
Well,
multiple staff churches. There's not going to be tons in the power structure.
yeah, I don't know what size his church is. I don't know
Yeah.
if the senior pastor is his direct report. For the way that I like to operate, I would be concerned if the person over me cannot make decisions.
Cool. Well, and I would say in my limited, and I mean that jokingly, but really I mean it seriously, in my limited experience, right, with this, me running a high school ministry and not having, you running interference, what I would say, if you get to do what you want to do, then his indecision doesn't adversely affect you.
Yeah.
Then then I wouldn't sweat it until
Right.
until it becomes a problem. So obviously I agree. I mean, I rarely disagree, especially on stuff like this, leadership and church stuff like that. Rarely do I disagree with you. But what I would say is don't make a problem out of nothing. Wait until you're hindered. Wait until bonehead things come your way.
Well, and I think there's a big difference between decisiveness, a decision maker, all that stuff, and controlling. Like, I like the freedom that a leader can give you.
Yeah.
Like, it let you play within this sandbox, and then when you start hitting the boundaries of the sandbox, that's when a decision needs to be made. So I would say, yes, a decision-making supervisor,
Yeah.
lead, pastor, whatever, super important, but I don't want an overbearing, controlling, making all
Be
these
careful what you
decisions.
wish for.
Right.
This might get it.
Yeah. So I would say I want a leader that gives me the space to make a bunch of decisions, but when I need something that it's decisive. Yeah.
Good.
Good thoughts.
Katrina, got anything? All right.
good stuff.
Why don't you start on this one?
Okay.
All right, this is from Jimmy Higgins, Bakersfield, California. And Jimmy, we haven't given anything away from LeaderTrex yet. So LeaderTrex, the fine organization, headed up by the Reverend Doug Franklin, will be sending you some very sweet gifts from LeaderTrex. And so for those of you who need leadership material, LeaderTrex.com. Org, is it
I
org?
don't know. I didn't.
It's Org.com.
Yeah. Just Google leader check.
It's both,
Try
actually.
both.
Yeah.
No.
Just Google it. It'll
Yeah,
be there.
they're great.
Doug
And
Franklin.
they're going to send you stuff. All right.
We're such good hosts.
I'm leading a high school group of about 100 students with no facility.
Okay. That's awesome.
We use our worship cedar
Christmas Eve cervix.
We use our worship center that seats 700, but we can't change anything in it other than moving chairs.
Ooh, 100 in a 700.
How can we make it a more fun place to meet or more like a youth room?
Beach balls.
It's been non-verbal.
Done.
I'm surprised you didn't say dodgeball.
Oh, I like that. More than. All right, so giant room, great size youth group, holy smokes, but dwarfed in that huge room. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Well, we did it for many, many years in the tents, when we met in the tents.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say there's somebody in your church that can help you do some room division, you know, so PVC pipe with, you know,
curtains
fabrics
hanging or
and
something.
curtains, that type of thing.
You're talking about math.
Some division.
I have a friend. I have some friends that they're at a church where they meet. Their ministry meets in the gym, and it kind of again is like weird acoustics and it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so they did have a volunteer that kind of built these big fabric panels that kind of just came down on the sides and created a little bit of intimacy, and it, you know,
Doubled as a
super low
flannel board.
budget. It did. Yes. But it was cool, and I think too, just kind of creating the front, you know, making, you know, coning off chairs or whatever, just to
Yeah.
make it a more intimate setting.
Yeah, well, and typically on the stage are the one who see the empty seats. You know, if you can design the room in such a way that there is a lot happening in the front or around you, or utilize the space and divide up into small groups in different parts of the room so that the space is now a win or an advantage, that could be helpful as well.
Yeah. Or move them into a corner.
Totally.
Bring some stuff in. I mean, there's people in your church, space planner type people, that would love to help get involved with some cheap sheets and some PVC pipe and some different things. I mean, the great thing is you have space. What a great problem to have.
Well, and with 100 students, that's a critical mass of students. That's a large youth ministry. So I think it would be an interesting talk somewhere, maybe around the first of the year or first of the school year, and say, imagine this place filled with teenagers. Imagine this building. You know, we're at 100. Can you guys believe
the fact that they get to move chairs, how great is that?
Right,
I mean,
right.
some churches you would never be able to do that because it'd be pews or whatever.
Totally.
Right.
You know, there is a principle for our team that's listening / viewing, is that the smaller you can make a room feel, the more dynamic it feels.
Totally.
You know, so instead of going into a big room just because it's a youth room, when it's teaching time, if the room's too big, move them into a classroom and teach in there. Maybe you do your interaction, your game, you know, whatever in there. But when it's time to teach, move them into a smaller setting, because the more intimate I feel, the more engaged I'm going to be.
Totally. Yeah, I love it.
Hey, I know based on Matt's technical errors, my daughter has a volleyball game tonight.
Yes.
You have a small group, Katie. Josh, you have football practice. And Matt, you have an anniversary. And so
Can't believe Misha's
I mean,
still
we
with you.
still
Who knew?
we still have, like, typically
she's not.
typically we still have 10 minutes left for
Yeah.
our show, but we don't have that
Yeah,
time
we
left
should
because
probably
we lost
call it.
it a little bit with Matt.
I
Matt
don't
being
remember
late,
exactly
Matt
what
screwing up.
happened, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's something.
Anything, Josh, you want to talk about? You want to say as we close?
No.
Do you feel hurt by me?
No,
my
I'm
comment about
messing around.
service?
I have thick old skin.
Why do you have this?
My son bought that his senior year in high school when he was playing football because he had a big tractor tire and it was part of a workout.
What's the hit it?
Sledgehammer to the tire, yeah.
Last time I saw one of these was a few days ago. Ving Rhames.
Last time I saw one of these was
One of
way back
these
just a few days
sledgehammer.
ago.
In a movie that you would think would be totally awesome, Zombie Apocalypse. Turned it off after 20 minutes because it was horrible.
How could you ever turn off a movie named?
I know. Sci-Fi
You should.
Channel really
I'm
let me
just
down.
thinking maybe, I don't know.
I've got
Just-
pure.
Yeah.
My computer.
MacBook Air.
You're not that coordinated. So
Oh wow.
put it to
Okay,
the
so
side.
you doing
How you
okay? You're
define
fine?
Yeah, I'm great.
Everything's
It's
going
great,
on? Katrina? Anything you need our family to know, our youth ministry garage family?
No, I don't think
Other than go to youthministrygarage.com.
How come you're so fancy
yeah.
today? You got a
Interact
fancy
with
flower on, you
the
got some long
questions of the
sleeves.
week.
my baby spit up on my jacket as I left, and this was.
So you threw a flower on? That's great. That's what I did. I threw my
That's what you guys
scrubs
gotta
on.
do.
You
can say the flowers
Doug's got to run to
wrong.
surgery, so.
Okay.
Matt,
See, look at
you wanna
What do I want to do?
teach a tech seminar or anything like that?
Yeah.
Are we done? Should we say goodbye?
I'm willing to give this up anytime someone else thinks they can do better.
I cannot. So
Yeah.
No,
I
Katie
can't- I
can
just
barely
can't-
watch the light.
I caught it really soon.
No, you did. You
You
did.
sort of
That's great.
No,
I don't think I could handle the ridicule, so I could easily handle the
I've been
technical
handling
side.
the ridicule for years.
Yeah, it's all one way. It's all one way ridicule.
Love you guys. Bye. We love you dearly.
All right.